For nearly 7 years, no one knew her name. Just a skeleton in a shed, unidentified, unclaimed, and lost to time. But in 2025, a fingerprint changed everything. This is the story of a woman who vanished silently. No breaking news. No family searching on national television. No Amber Alert. Her disappearance didn't make headlines. Her body barely made a blip on the radar. But what was once a forgotten mystery is now a chilling reminder that even in the digital age, people can still vanish and no one notices. It was a cold, grey day in 2018 when a property owner in Lima, Spain decided to finally check on an old, rarely used shed in a rural part of town. The shed stood isolated, surrounded by overgrown weeds and cracked stones, its door rusted shut. It hadn't been touched in years. Inside, behind a collapsed wooden shelf and some dusty boxes, the landlord made a horrifying discovery: human remains. At first, it was hard to tell what he was looking at. The body had decomposed so extensively that only bones remained. A faint smell still lingered, faint but unmistakable. Police were called immediately, and the area was cordoned off as a potential crime scene. The skeletal remains were found lying on a piece of old carpeting. Nearby, there was nothing of note: no wallet, no ID, no phone. Her clothing was degraded and generic, with all tags removed or long since disintegrated. No purse, no documents, no jewelry. There was nothing that could help identify who this person was. The shed had been on a piece of neglected private property. According to neighbors, no one had been seen coming or going from there in years. One even admitted to assuming the place was abandoned. From the beginning, authorities were at a loss. They were dealing with a woman whose story had been completely erased. No clues, no context, no name. A full forensic investigation was launched. The pathologists assigned to the case faced a difficult task. The remains had been exposed to the elements: humidity, insects, time, and that made it incredibly hard to extract clear information. There were no obvious signs of trauma on the bones. But that didn't mean much. Without soft tissue, it was nearly impossible to say definitively whether the woman had been murdered, died accidentally, or even succumbed to an illness. The cause of death was officially labeled undetermined. They tried everything: dental records, DNA cross-checks, and facial reconstruction. But without anything to compare the data to, they were hitting brick walls at every turn. Interpol was notified and brought in to assist with broader international missing persons databases. Nothing matched. Local police floated several theories. Was she a migrant who died while trying to find shelter? Could she have been the victim of domestic violence, hidden away by a partner or abuser? Or was she a person who had fallen through the cracks? Perhaps someone struggling with homelessness or addiction. All those possibilities were explored, but with no missing persons report to match the body, it was like she had never existed at all. What made it worse was the lack of public engagement. No one recognized her. No one called in with tips. No family reached out. Her face, or rather, her forensic reconstruction, was published online and in print, but still, there was silence. The woman in the shed remained a mystery. Eventually, as is tragically common in cases like this, the investigation lost momentum. The media had barely covered the story to begin with. There were no emotional interviews with family members pleading for help. No viral posts. No police sketches that caught the internet's attention. It was as if this woman had lived and died in the shadows, and the world just kept moving without her. The authorities, overburdened with newer cases and crimes in progress, eventually labeled her as an unidentified dissident. The body was catalogued, and the bones were respectfully stored, awaiting future identification. But year after year, her file collected dust in a drawer labeled cold cases. She became one of the many Jane Does whose names were lost to time, an all too common occurrence, even in our modern world. 7 long years would pass. 7 years where her story remained buried along with her remains. Until something extraordinary happened. In 2025, a routine scan of fingerprint databases, part of a broader initiative to revisit cold cases, uncovered a match. A print pulled from a decades-old hospital record finally matched with one lifted from a preserved portion of her hand. And just like that, the woman who had vanished without a trace was given a name. Ainoha Izaga Ibita Lima. Who was she? And why did it take nearly a decade to give her a name? Stick around as we dive deeper into this haunting case. Don't forget to like this video, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the rest of this story. Before she was just bones in a shed, Ainoha Izaga Ibita was a woman with a life, a name, and a history. But somewhere along the way, she vanished without a trace. Ainoha Izaga Ibita Lima was born in Paraguay and later moved to Spain in 2013. She was 28 years old at the time of her relocation, seeking new opportunities and experiences in a different country. Details about her early life and career remain scarce, but it's known that she lived in various cities within Spain, including Barcelona. Friends and acquaintances described her as a free spirit, someone who valued her independence. However, Ainhoa reportedly struggled with personal issues, possibly involving mental health challenges and unstable housing situations. Despite these struggles, Ainhoa maintained connections with her family back in Paraguay. Her brother, in particular, was concerned when he lost contact with her for an extended period. The last confirmed sighting of Ainhoa was in August 2018. Tragically, on August 4, 2018, her body was discovered hanging in a poultry shed attached to a farmhouse in Sant Julià de Ramis, Catalonia, Spain. At the time of discovery, she was not carrying any identification, and no one in the area recognized her. The farmhouse residents and neighbors had never seen her before, and there was no vehicle nearby to suggest how she arrived at the location. Despite her brother's concern, no official missing person report was filed in Spain. It wasn't until mid-2019, after several months of no contact, that her brother reported her missing to authorities in Paraguay. Several factors might explain why no one reported her missing sooner. Ainhoa may have been estranged from her family or living a transient lifestyle, making it difficult for others to notice her absence. Additionally, systemic issues in tracking missing adults, especially those without strong social ties, can lead to such cases being overlooked. Ainhoa's case highlights the systemic failures that often affect vulnerable individuals. Society frequently overlooks adults who lead transient lifestyles, struggle with mental health issues, or lack stable housing. These individuals can disappear without immediate notice, and their cases may not receive the attention they deserve. The difficulty in tracking down missing adults without family support or official documentation further complicates matters. In Ainhoa's case, the lack of identification and immediate recognition delayed the investigation and identification process for years. This situation underscores the need for improved systems to prevent people from disappearing unnoticed. It also calls for greater awareness and resources dedicated to supporting vulnerable populations, ensuring that every individual is accounted for and valued. Ainhoa didn't just disappear, she was forgotten, until a single fingerprint brought her back into the light. And remember to like, drop a comment with your theory, and subscribe to stay updated on stories like this. In 2025, someone ran a fingerprint, routine, almost mechanical. But what it revealed would finally solve a 7-year-old mystery and give a name to the woman no one remembered. 4 years, the woman found in a poultry shed in Sant Julià de Ramis, Spain, remained unidentified. She had no ID. No one in the area knew her. And her image, released in 2023 as part of Interpol's Operation Identify Me, triggered speculation, but still no answers. But in early 2025, everything changed. A cold case investigator working through archived data resubmitted her fingerprints to a newly updated database. This wasn't anything special, just part of a routine review using improved forensic software. But then, a hit. The fingerprint matched a record from years earlier, belonging to a woman named Ainoha Izaga Ibita Lima, originally from Paraguay. It turned out that Ainhoa had interacted with medical or possibly law enforcement services in Spain prior to her death, and her prints had been collected and stored in a lesser-access database. That system had recently been integrated with more robust European databases, and this time, it worked. Her identity was confirmed in March 2025, nearly 7 years after her body was discovered. When authorities released her name, the public reaction was immediate. Shock, sorrow, and a quiet kind of outrage. How could a woman with a recorded identity vanish and remain unnamed for so long? The announcement reignited interest in the case. People shared her story. Advocates demanded answers. And once again, Ainhoa became more than a reconstruction or a placeholder. She became a person. While the identification brought long-awaited closure to part of the mystery, it also opened up new and troubling questions. Her body was found hanging in a shed. On the surface, it may have appeared to be suicide, but the more investigators looked, the less certain things became. She had no apparent connection to the location. No one saw her arrive. There were no obvious signs of transportation, no personal items, and no confirmed witnesses placing her there. According to investigators, the cause of death was undetermined. Now, with her identity known, the case has been reopened. Authorities are re-examining the possibility of foul play or negligence. Was she lured or coerced to that location? Was she in mental distress and overlooked by the systems that should have supported her? Could someone be responsible for her death, directly or indirectly? These are the questions investigators are now trying to answer. And while they dig through old case files and re-interview those connected to the area, the public is left with unsettling possibilities. Ainoha's death may not have been just a tragic accident. It may have been a failure of justice, of support systems, or of society itself. Ainoha Izaga Ibita Lima's case is more than a solved mystery, it's a wake-up call. Her story has become a catalyst for renewed conversations around unidentified remains and forgotten victims. Since the launch of Operation Identify Me, law enforcement agencies across Europe have been flooded with tips, and at least one other case has reportedly moved closer to resolution. Investigators are now taking a fresh look at other unidentified bodies, many of whom, like Ainoha, were women found in rural or isolated areas. Each one has a story, a name, a life that was never meant to vanish into a case file. Ainoha's identification has also prompted a broader societal question. How do we let people fall through the cracks so easily? What systems are in place to ensure that someone struggling doesn't disappear unnoticed? How can we prevent future Ainhoas from being reduced to anonymous remains waiting for a name? Advocates are now calling for better data sharing between countries, improved support networks for vulnerable individuals, and more proactive efforts to cross-reference missing person reports with unidentified remains. Ainhoa's name now lives on, not as a cold case, but as a symbol of those who shouldn't be forgotten. Ainoha Izaga Ibita Lima was finally named, but justice may still be waiting. Share your thoughts in the comments, give this video a like if you want more deep dive investigations, and make sure to subscribe for more real stories that deserve to be told.